Um, and unlike usual reviews where it's just me talking into a void and hoping somebody is there to listen to it, one, this is streamed and I announced it places. I put a link in a Berserk community Discord and I put a link in my Discord. So hopefully people are here. And secondly, I don't know if you guys can hear that. I'm playing Berserk OST in the background. This is also going to be right before I do my what I'm going to refer to as my This Week in Shonen streams, where I go over One Piece and Chainsaw, because apparently I no longer do videos over those. So, without further ado, let's go over Berserk chapter 370. Yeah, so this chapter is a thing, and I believe, unless I am mistaken, which I definitely could be, this chapter is the finale of Fantasia, or at least the Elfhelm section of Fantasia. I don't know if it's like the entire arc is wrapped up now and we're going into a completely new arc, if everything from here on. But this was just starting off this chapter. One, we got a color page, and it is of Danan, Shirke, and Isma. And they are on Elfhelm, and we see a Sidro training in the background with the text, "For a while, peaceful days like this were the norm." And there's an announcement announcing the TV broadcasting of the movies and the Memorial Edition. And this is Chapter 370, Refugees from the Western Sea. And immediately into the first page, we are straight into what I consider not one of the darker starts to a chapter, because we have had worse, even lately, in context, but just the way that this is portrayed, with no dialogue at all. It's just text panels with no actual words in them, and it's everyone rushing around to do this stuff. A few people are carrying Guts onto the ship, and the first words of dialogue are from Serpico at the bottom of the page, looking for Farnese, and Puck points out the group. Serpico finds the group with Farnese and Shirke, along with Ivalra and Puck. This is a big thing. Ivalra and Puck are still in this realm. And the way it was explained by somebody, I'm forgetting who, is they had existed in the normal world, for lack of a better term, the corporeal world, before the events of Fantasia happened. So everything that was brought over due to Fantasia is gone, but everything that was here before is still here. Meaning, apostles are still here, obviously, because those are technically humans. Puck and other elves are there, but only elves that were actually there. And if I remember correctly, it was harder to get to Elfhelm before Fantasia, and now it's easier, so that makes sense why everyone just kind of vanished. Serpico looks around, sees all the refugees, and asks where the others are, in reference to Guts, Casca, and the kid. And Farnese just snaps after Shirke has this, like, kind of, I guess, regretful look on her face. Farnese snaps and says, "It's all my fault. I couldn't do a thing. I was useless." And she starts crying. Serpico is just staying there along with Isidro. And Isidro sees everything. And after witnessing what happened to Isma, he's obviously still shocked. And going through his own feelings. Ivalra tries to comfort Shirke. And Serpico silently tries to comfort Farnese, probably knowing it wouldn't do a whole lot of good because of her new, for lack of a better term, character progression. And for how much Casca meant to Farnese, this is a huge loss for her. And then Morda comes in, and for the first time, I'm gonna say some tough love here was needed, because Morda comes in and tells Farnese and Shirke, the two practicing witches, that they need to help heal people, and Morda can't do this all on her own, because she's the only witch left, apparently. So Farnese puckers up, says she's going to help, and Shirkai asks if she can help, and Morta points out that Guts is here, the friend who was brought in, the one who was clad in black. And her comment here really sets what had happened in the past few chapters into light. He kept gazing up and mumbling something. He looked like a broken man to me. He seems to have settled down now, but I'm still weary. And this is going to be a little bit of an issue that I have, but I'm not going to go over that right now. I'm going to go over what that statement meant. Well, not meant, but how it impacts. Because think about it. The last time Guts was emotionally vulnerable to this extent was probably the night with the Beast of Darkness, if I'm remembering correctly. Ever since then, sure, stuff has happened that he's gotten emotional about, but, like, nothing like this. I would probably put this on par with, like, Hilltop of Dreams, or Bonfire of Dreams, I should say. Post Eclipse, maybe. Just moments like that. I'm putting what Guts is going through right now in the same vein as those. And I'm not doing that lightly. I remember what Guts went through at those times. But that's how big I think this was. And moving into the last bit that Morta said, speaking about the Berserker armor, if that thing is left to go Berserk, I don't think I need to tell you the consequences. My issue with this, very small and very personal. In my knowledge, the word Berserk has only ever been said once in the series, and it was by Puck at the end of the Black Swordsman arc. Or maybe it was at the end of the first chapter when talking about Guts. Either way, it is in reference to Guts, and he says that Guts went Berserk. Get it. It just feels like this is either a poor translation or an intentional name drop of the series, or, like, yes, I know that Berserk is a word used to describe things, obviously, but it just feels, I don't know. It's the best word to use in the circumstance, so I get it, but to me it just feels weird. And Shirkai says that she'll leave the wounded to Morta and Farnese, and she goes off to find Guts. She passes Isidro, who is still emotional, and then we cut to Roderick and the rest of the crew, where Roderick says all the survivors are on board, but we couldn't recover half the, or somebody tells Roderick, all the survivors are on board, but we couldn't recover half the cargo. And Roderick, being the very life-important man that he is, that's more than enough. Let's set sail before some other disaster crops up. Asks if Guts is alright, and somebody tells him that he went to his quarters alone. And Roderick says, he is a special case, we can't leave him by himself. Guts, answer me, don't do anything stupid, Guts. And then we cut to Guts, and he is in a room glaring at the Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer is propped against the wall, as we've seen Guts do many times. And he's kind of hearing what Roderick is saying in the background, but not paying attention to it. And his hand is shaking. He falls against the wall, or leans into it and falls against it, whatever. And because of the impact of Guts hitting the wall, along with the fact that the Dragon Slayer probably wasn't propped up well because of what Guts is going through, thinking about whatever, the Dragon Slayer falls. And this is when we get Guts at what I would say is his second lowest point in the series, right behind the Eclipse. And this, I don't say this lightly, because Guts is saying, all this time when I couldn't depend on anything else, anyone else, when I had nothing, I still had your strength to hold on to. You were all I had. In reference to the many swords that he has had in his life, but the fact that he has always had a sword that he could rely on. And now his sword has proven useless against Griffith. And this is big because it's not just a few random moments from the series. These are all key moments of Golden Age. There's the time he rode into battle. I believe this is his first fight as Hawk. The night that Judo came to, or the morning Judo came to him. During the 100-man fight and after the 100-man fight. And then during the Campfire of Dreams. All very important moments that all set Guts into what we know as Berserk. All these moments are very important. We have the first fight with the Hawks because that was his first introduction to the Hawks in a fighting capacity, his first connection. The moment with Judo because, to be fair, that was the first person-on-person connection that got through to Guts. And then the 100-man fight, obviously, it was the fight where he contemplated why he was alive, what he was doing for his life, if he was happy with what he was doing for his life. And the moment that ultimately set him into leaving the Hawks, meaning that Griffith did what he did with Princess Charlotte, leading into everything else, leading to Wylad, leading to Eclipse, leading to Conviction, leading to everything. These are moments that were crucial for the series and for Guts as a character. And during all these moments, and Campfire of Dreams, obviously, forgot that. That was the moment where he alluded to the fact that he was leaving, and I think that was the first moment where it's kind of he brings it up as an option to leave. And Casca obviously asks what he's talking about, and that's how that scene goes. But the fact that all these scenes are crucial with the sword, obviously, that was the entire point of these pages, is to show that Guts' biggest moments always have his sword with him. Whether it's he's using it to fight, he's using it to emote with the Campfire of Dreams, or he's using it to save his own life. And now, the sword that he has trusted above all other swords, the Dragon Slayer, the one who could kill beasts that couldn't be killed by anything else, hence why it's called the Dragon Slayer. The sword that has protected him more than anything else in worse situations. The one that he has protected the people close to him with. The one that he has used to embody his rage and his anger and his despair even. And the fact that now it is proving useless. Completely and utterly useless. It's just... There's a reason why I named this stream what I did. There's a reason I named it Despair, Mourn, and Struggle. Because that's what these few pages symbolize, at least to me. Where he is going through despair for losing Casca, the fact that his sword doesn't work anymore. In context, it doesn't work to reach the goal he has wanted to reach forever. For more than half the series. Then there is Mourn, which is obviously, again, what he's doing and what he's done before. He has mourned the loss of friends. He has mourned the loss of people close to him. And then Struggle, because obviously he is the struggler, as Skull Knight calls him. This entire series is about his struggles and him struggling to survive, him struggling to go forward, him struggling to find a reason to keep going, him struggling to move on, to do all this stuff. And that's a few chapters ago I named the video, This Is Why I Love Berserk. And it was the reason that there's emotional moments, there's action, there's gore, there's all this stuff. But this is another reason why I love Berserk. We could have these introspective chapters where no swords are swung, no one's dying, not even, there's no fighting happening at all. It is strictly emotional. Obviously, Guts has the majority of it in this chapter, as he does with the entire series. But we have Farnese struggling to accept the fact that she failed at the job that she thought she could do. Shirkei also going through that, but not to a lesser extent, just less of an outwardly expressed extent. Isidro losing the girl that he was growing close to because of the fact that they could relate to each other and they went through things together and separate that they could only, I guess, understand together. The fact that way back on the island where they found Isma, Isidro was the one to save her, to be there. And Isma has been, in the Shirkei and Farnese type of way, Isma has been Isidro's Casca. The reason to keep fighting, the reason to survive, his main reason to protect everything. In the same vein as Guts as well. And now he's lost his Casca fill-in as well. Our entire crew right now is down. I would be very, very careful with saying this, but Serpico is the only one that isn't as down as the rest, and that's strictly because he didn't have as close to a connection as Casca. But even then, he is going through it by proxy of everyone going through it. And that's an important thing to remember is everyone is affected here. Obviously, this is a massive thing. Everyone that we have grown close to is gone other than our main group anymore because now we don't have Casca. So, if this is the end of Fantasia like I'm remembering it as, I'm very interested to see what the next few chapters are going to do. New chapter comes out December 9th, and that's a major thing because this was the October chapter, meaning there's going to be no November chapter. I don't know if this is going to be a normal thing now, like a bi-monthly release. I don't know if there wasn't a November chapter ever, because like maybe Young Animal doesn't go out on Novembers. I don't know. Or the talent behind the series is taking it more, not seriously, because we do know that they had these chapters, these last 6, I believe, stored back. They had these ones done. That's how they could comfortably say 6 chapters until the end of Fantasia, and then we're on to a new arc. This could be the end of those chapters, and now we have to go on a bi-monthly wait, which I'm fine with as long as the studio takes their time, does the art well, because even in this chapter alone, there is a very obvious improvement in the way some characters are drawn. Yes, you have the people complaining about screen tones used for shading instead of actually shading. Yes, that is a very valid complaint. I agree with it. There are some panels with Guts' face, like the one where he is slumped against the wall with over half of the panel black, him like a barrel's behind him. That panel, I think, looks very awkward because of the screen tones, and I hope Studio Gaga uses screen tones less. I'm not a professional artist by any means, so I don't know if their use of screen tones is abusive or any way. It can take away from certain panels if they hadn't had screen tones. Another thing I think this chapter does well art-wise is it gives the Dragon Slayer impact again. Which, when Miura was drawing the Dragon Slayer, even in the panels where Guts was just slashing at the air, during that chapter where he was, the one that ended with him talking to Skull Knight, any time that Guts swung the Dragon Slayer at all by Miura, it was a spectacle to see. And then you have the Studio Gaga panels. I complained about it in the chapter itself. This one where he's slashing, I think at Zod Griffith, and it is a full-page spread, but the Dragon Slayer looks really short. Sure, it is a full-page spread, but that should have been a double-page spread. This is one of the first times Guts is fighting for a while. And it's not something you should relegate to just one page and underdo the Dragon Slayer's scale. And this chapter gives the Dragon Slayer impact once again. That panel where it hits the ground, the panel that's up right now, just the weight that you see the motion lines going down and you see the impact. The fact that Guts is so small in the background because the Dragon Slayer is such a massive piece of iron. And obviously the symbolic piece that this is a major piece of his life falling apart. That he can no longer just rely on his sword to do its job. And the panel where it is just staring at it, the final panel of it, it does a really good job of highlighting, with the teaser text being a faint light lost in the dark. There's a small shine on the Dragon Slayer, but the other half of the blade is also dark with screen tones. Just the fact that the Dragon Slayer gets so many panels to itself, with it as the main aspect of it, it is amazing to see. That's been me geeking out about the Dragon Slayer. Because as much as it is a weapon, it is a tool, it is also a character. Sure, it doesn't get dialogue and all that, but we have seen this Dragon Slayer go through so much shit. We have seen it literally reforged by Godo, along with Guts being reforged. There is always the case we made that the Dragon Slayer is a metaphor for Guts. Duh. Guts is the sword. Every time this sword goes through something and it needs to be reforged, Guts is at a point in his life where he needs to reforge his ideals, his thoughts, his logic, his reason to keep on going. Hence, just like the, what was it called? The chapter with Godo where they're talking about it. the embers or something. I don't fucking know. That chapter is a reforging of Guts' character, and then Godo physically remakes the Dragon Slayer, not from scratch, but with the pieces that were there, he reforges it. Just like in that conversation with Guts, he had reforged Guts' logic, his mentality, everything. Whew. That's a lot of heavy symbolism for a sword, and I'm sorry. And this is a perfect time to end it because I think I've talked about everything I want to talk about without ranting for too long. To sum it up, the art is getting better. I think the character art is getting significantly better. The look on Roderick's face when he is screaming Guts' name is amazing. A few panels of Serpico do look weird. I don't know what it is that Studio Gaga just cannot get right about Serpico, my son. I think it's the fact that usually his hair is like fluffy, and now it's kind of flat. Even before his hair got wet, it was flat, and that's my biggest issue. But like Morta looks fine, not as she did in Miura's, but there's a very obvious art change. Duh. Everyone looks good in this art style now, other than Serpico, but I'm just gonna suck it up and say this is probably how we're gonna look at Serpico from now on. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this stream, this review, this breakdown, this thing. I am going to go read Chainsaw and One Piece because I have not read the new Chainsaw chapter, and the One Piece chapter should have come out by now. If not, we're just gonna do a Chainsaw chapter review, and that's that. Other than that, there's a reason why this video took so long, or the stream took so long to do. And it was the fact that I don't like to just rush into Berserk reviews, like fuming with a thought process without taking a step back and thinking about it. And now I've done that. Wow, I really can't do these reviews without somebody interrupting now, today. That's the second time. But I don't like to go into Berserk reviews with an agenda or a forward-thinking thought process without actually thinking it through. I have to take a few days, mull things over, reread the chapter a few times. I'm pretty sure I reread this chapter right before this review, and that was like the 7th time I've reread this chapter. Just so I can remember everything that I thought, and then rethink everything I thought. Because the first time I read this chapter, I was like, oh, why do we spend so much time looking at all the random people on this boat? But now I get it, because this isn't just about our main group. There are a lot of people displaced by this. This is a massive thing that has happened to Elfhelm and the world. Just stuff like that. And yeah, I can complain about the screen tones. I can complain about Serpico looking weird. I can complain about the paneling, which continues to kind of be weird, but not really. My one big paneling complaint is the page about the Berserker armor, where Morta's talking about the armor being left to go Berserk. I think that could have just been a full page of the the Berserker armor with those text bubbles. That's it. There doesn't need to be a face shot for Shirke, unless you want to move that to the next page, but that next page already has a face shot of her, where you can just transition from the one that was on the page with the dragon, or the, keep fucking up, the Berserker armor, and then have her go help Guts without the two facial expressions about her going to help Guts. Just complaints like that. I can nitpick. I do think the biggest complaint that a lot of people have is still the art, obviously. That's going to happen for a series like Berserk, but more so screen tones. I've seen, for I think 3 chapters now, consistent complaints about screen tone abuse. And I hate to jump on the same train, but they are overused. But yeah, that'll be it for this stream. Like I said, I'm going to go read the Chainsaw and One Piece chapters if they're both out. If One Piece isn't out, I'll stream the Chainsaw thought process. I'm going to make thumbnails for the This Week in Shonen from last week. Make a thumbnail for this stream that I can slap on it in retrospect. And then probably, if I don't do a This Week in Shonen this week, I'll probably do 2 separate thumbnails. If I end up doing a This Week in Shonen, and I just forego the Chainsaw only video, that's just what's going to happen. Because I have not checked if the One Piece chapter is out. I have notifications on for it, but I have no idea. But yeah,